Last but not least, Paul, I know you've been very accommodative and told me that I can impose on you if we needed to. We're running a little long, and but coming to our expert on the housing markets, give us an insight into what's happening there with the housing values, what can we look forward to, and that would help us go forward.
Alrighty, let's zip through this because we want to get to questions because that's the fun part. Alright, let's just remind you that this entire thing, now that we've gone through all the financial reasons and accounting reasons why this thing is perpetuated and gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, let's get back to why it actually started. And it all goes back to housing. Alright, and the reason is, or one of the big reasons for us, if you look at 2003, 2004, 2005, this is the 30-year fixed mortgage rate. And at the same time, if you would look at your stock markets and other places to make money, it was pretty hard to make money there. So everybody was running into real estate. And it was cheap to get into, and they did. And as they did so, they said, I can invest in real estate because real estate always goes up and it's a firm asset, right? And as they did this, they drove the prices up. I'm an economist. You kick out demand for houses, and all of a sudden prices start to accelerate forward. Look at the red line there, which is the composite 10 largest cities in the U.S., and look how it accelerates from 2003 to 2005. All right? As other assets become available and may start to earn money, it's time for people to move to other things. All right? On top of that, we started to have issues with the subprime issue. By the way, the bottom two blue lines are Grand Rapids and Detroit. So you can see we didn't quite accelerate as much as the rest of the country did. And we've fallen a little farther than the rest of the country has. That's because we've had a 7-year recession. They didn't. So it's the drop in these housing values now that's causing all the dominoes to start falling with all of these complex financial instruments that are really hard to figure out. So the question is, what does this do to West Michigan? First of all, for the first time in over a year, we've actually seen a decrease in financial services jobs in the Grand Rapids area, which is the first time in quite a long time. Good news for you finance students out there. All right. Luckily, we're having the health services sector and professional services sector maintain us right now. And we're down only 900 jobs over last year. That's better than most of the rest of the United States is looking at right now when you compare year over year. All right. We have two problems. First problem was, of course, the credit crisis, which we'll get back to in a second, which was housing. The other is automotive, which, if you haven't heard anything about GM and Ford and Chrysler, who have big exposures here, they need to borrow a lot of money. And if you've just heard the rest of our experts, they're having a hard time getting that capital. And if they don't, we're going to have further jobs issues that come into play. And you can see they're dropping off pretty fast as this credit crunch starts to squeeze them. There's some gas price stuff in there as well, but we don't need to go into that today. All right. The other side is housing. The good news for Michigan is we started this process 2 years before everybody else did. So all the really weak housing loans lost their houses already. And so what we're starting to see for the very first time since 2005, increases in housing prices here in Grand Rapids. This is still very preliminary, but using a Case-Shiller type index, we're just now starting to see a bobble up in the housing prices for Grand Rapids. So if that's the light on the end of our tunnel, I wanted to end on a good note before we went to questions. So,
the bearer of good news. Thanks, Paul.